All right, today is September 28th. This is the second episode of our Morning Fix podcast. Um, uh,
And we both have coffee with us. And what do you have, Patrick?
I have just a batch brew from a coffee shop near me called Roasters, Rowsters.
Rayusters.
Um, what?
Rayusters.
Rooster. It's good coffee too.
That's good.
What about you? What do you got?
I have a fake version of cafe con leche, which um, is homemade from a mocha pot with a lot of sugar in it, with cafe bustelo and milk.
Come to think of it, both of us like mild, I want to say interest in coffee, but it'd probably be more accurate to say addiction to coffee.
We're both addicted to coffee, but we both very much like the art form in coffee.
Did
Cause
we talk about this last time?
no,
Where did you start with coffee?
um, we'd go to Panera Bread, and my grandma would get a cup of coffee and she'd share it with me. Um, Probably when I was like 4 or something. Super young. Probably shouldn't have coffee at that age. But that's where I started liking it. And then eventually, when I could just make my own coffee because I was allowed to, I got my sister into coffee by doing black coffee with a ton of creamer. And then it's grown ever since. But we can get into that later. Where did it start for you?
I think I was like 14 or 15. My aunt got me like she didn't get it for me. She bought herself like a Chemex coffee maker.
Mm,
And like when I first looked at it, I was like, is this like some sort of bong? Auntie Lisa, what are you into these days? But it's actually a coffee maker. And she
yeah.
gave it to me because she never used it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like wanted to learn how to make really good coffee because I didn't like the taste of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So then I used this Chemex, very niche thing. At least
Yeah,
I
it
thought
is.
it was. And like I just like kept making it. It was a 2 cup coffee maker, so I would always make cups with my dad.
Mm,
So every morning I'd try different ratios of water and temperature and all kinds of things. And eventually it just turned into it. Yeah, like an art form of just trying to find a really, really nice blend and coffee
yeah.
mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you didn't like coffee to start, and then you grew liking it. See, I thought you always liked coffee.
I kind of like, I mean, who really likes coffee when they first have it?
I mean, I started out how young, so I don't remember not liking coffee.
Uh, well, I never liked the taste of coffee at first just because it was bitter and it was sour, and I was used to things either tasteless like water or sweet like
Yeah,
juice.
juice, not
And it was,
soda.
yeah, and it definitely was not sweet, so I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it. And I didn't like coffee when I made it with the Chemex, but it was like something that my dad really liked.
Mm.
So it was like a way for me to bond with my dad.
Yeah,
Um, so I just enjoyed making the coffee, not so much drinking it. But as time went on, and I made I made cups of coffee for my dad. I like started to acquire a taste for it.
mm-hmm.
Um, I started drinking coffee with creamer and sugar,
Mm-hmm.
just because it was just
As
a really
everyone
bitter
does.
flavor. And then I did Exodus 90. You can't have sugar and creamer in your coffee, so I started drinking it black, and
Mm-hmm.
I never went back. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
On net, I actually started drinking it black.
was it because we did that thing, or because it was easier?
Well, I figured if not every host home doesn't have creamer or whatever, I'm just gonna drink it black, even if a host home has creamer.
Yeah,
And then The good thing about knowing how to drink coffee black or being able to is you actually get the taste of the beans, and then you can always go back to a sweet coffee because it's like a
Yeah.
treat. So,
I always do that with coffee shops. Like anytime I go to a coffee shop, I always get just their straight
hmm
black coffee because
yeah,
that's like the the baseline of their coffee flavor.
yeah. Do you?
Um,
Sorry, continue.
well, if I like the regular black coffee, then I'll go again and get something else like a latte or whatever. But
hmm
I always try to start with a black coffee.
Yeah, and it helps that it's also like cheapest. So if you already
Yeah.
like it, it's like it helps.
Yeah.
There's this place that whenever you're in Arizona, I'd like to take you. Hopefully, if we have time. Uh, it's called Oasis, and it's an Ethiopian coffee shop with
Yeah.
Ethiopian, like it's green beans, so they like roast it there, and there's a magazine or something or that they have hung. It's number 2 or number 1 in Arizona, number 8 in the United States and Canada.
And that's not hard to beat.
Well, you have to beat 3 coffee shops there.
Yeah. Um, for those who don't know, the reason that we video call for our podcast is because Dylan lives in Arizona and I live in Michigan.
I think
So
we,
we can't actually meet up for these podcasts. But
yeah,
come December, I'll be visiting Arizona and hopefully we can have an in person
yeah.
podcast episode.
And whether that one's actually in December is beyond us. So, I mean, we're trying to pre-record just so we can
Yeah.
actually get the content out.
Um,
Also, while
okay.
we're talking through the fourth wall, if you guys have any um, content that you'd like to see, because we're trying to post content through Instagram and YouTube Shorts as a side thing to get our name going, let us know ideas, please. So,
Yeah.
um,
Any and all ideas are welcome.
mhm.
Um, so coffee. Did we?
How have you ever had a cup of coffee where you needed to have it again because it was that good? Like in the
Yeah.
same day, like you ordered it again because you drank it and you're like, I'm leaving, I need this again.
Yeah. I had a no-op day while we were on net, um, and we went to a coffee shop. Can't remember what it was called, but like I was supposed to be there for the day because I was going to spend my no-op just doing whatever. Um, and I sat in the coffee shop and I like had a cup of coffee and I was like praying and reading and doing
hmm
whatever. And I was absentmindedly drinking the coffee. And like after I like put my stuff down and I finished the cup of coffee, I was like, hold on, that was actually really good.
hmm
And I went, I got another coffee.
Yeah,
I think I was in someplace in California.
of course.
I know, right?
Yeah, I've had a
What
few
about you?
like that, but I don't remember the places. There's been a couple where it's like super smooth to drink.
Yeah.
One of them was actually at the host home that had the espresso machine.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
That was in
Eugene,
Colorado,
Oregon,
Oregon.
close
That's right.
enough. Yeah, he made us a coffee, and um, it was really good. But I don't like oat milk. I only like whole milk just because I don't know. It just tastes off to me. But I think it was
Yeah,
just a normal Americano, oat milk and honey. And it was like super good for like no apparent reason.
yeah. Um, brain fart. Cool. Do you want to move on?
That's up to you. I didn't even get into working at coffee or anywhere, but if you wanted, here
Well,
we can move on and continue elsewhere. Art of the three transcendentals.
right. So I wanted to talk about this. Um, I don't know a lot of art. Like, of course, there's your main artists, um,
Like who?
Leonardo da Vinci and Picasso and
Yeah.
all the other ones, right?
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I never had like too much of a draw towards art, but the
Yeah.
thing that did like sit with me was like the people who did they. Um, I don't know. I was somehow gonna try and tie this back into how like every person, um, God speaks to people in one of three ways primarily.
Hmm.
Usually, and it's truth, beauty, and goodness, the
Yeah.
three transcendentals. Um, and like for me, I personally think that I see, like I hear God, like God tries to speak to me through goodness.
Mm.
Like when, how to best explain it? Kind of like that God exists, and the way you can tell is either like the one that sits speaks to you most is like if you were to look at a, I don't know, a landscape of mountains and a sunset, and that you'd like this is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like
That's
you can
beauty.
tell that, man, that's beauty, and God exists because this
Beautiful.
exists
Hmm.
and it's beautiful. Um, or or I don't know, you're reading scripture and it like just really speaks to you
Yeah.
because you know that it's true.
Hmm.
Um, or goodness and like those videos of clips that restore my faith in humanity,
Yeah.
like someone who is good doing something good. Voice crack. Doing something good, like you can like sit there and be like, wow, God exists because
Hmm.
this is good.
Yeah.
I think that for me, like the one that sticks out most is goodness. It's
Hmm.
like if something good happens or someone does something good, that's like God exists.
Yeah. Is it in your own life where it's like if people are good to you, or is it if people are good and you see it in others? Like
Both
the okay.
and it's not even necessarily like people are good. It's like this thing happened to me and it was good. Like I
Yeah.
had a very chill day at work the other day, and that was good because I was really tired and was like, yes, God exists.
Yeah. It's like a little light shining through the
Yeah,
tiredness.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think of how I view it now. I'd almost say I'd see it probably through truth and beauty more. Because truth,
yeah,
it's like if I do listen to podcasts, it's not just like random podcasts where people talk. It's like the argument debates where it's like getting to the problem. And I feel like
yeah.
I've had discussions with you where it's like we're just going back and forth just to like get to one single point where
Yeah.
we almost come to an agreement where it's like I know this is wrong, but I don't know how to get to where it's right. And you're like, well, this I think is right, and I'm like, no, that's not right. And we just like hash it out until we get to that
Until we
point.
get to the
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And then we're like, this seems good, and it's like true.
yeah,
Whether or not it's actually true is you just have to do your own research and look into
yeah,
what's actually like credible. Um, but then also in beauty, not necessarily like sunsets in beauty, like yes, but more like music. But a
hmm
lot of with music, if it's like secular music, you have to look for are the words that they're saying true? Because if they're lies, then that's not good. But if it's like true, then it's like okay, that's a good song, good music. And then if it's beautiful, like just the rhythm of the sounds and stuff. I listen to way too much music, people. I I think whenever we're on net, I had I want to say 120 or 100 or 160. I
It
don't
was
know.
100. You had. I was like, I remember this because I looked at my Spotify like listen time, and it's like, wow, I had 62,000 minutes
Everyone had
of
like
audio
30
time.
to 70,000 minutes.
Yeah, And I was like, this is good. I listened to a lot of music. I didn't
Mhm.
think that it was a lot. And I looked at some other people's, and majority of them were like 20 to 30,000. I was like, wow, I doubled everybody. And I was like, hey Dylan, what did you get? You showed me your phone. And it's 162,000 minutes.
Yeah. Which I think that came out to 130 days of straight listening. So it's
Great
like
listening.
a third of the year I spent listening to music. And that was like when I worked, I could listen to music. When I slept, I listen to music. Literally anytime I can, I listen to music. In the background, sometimes when praying, I listen to music. Now, I have to be careful with that because you do have to take your time of silence. And that's where I'm like, but I'm a very distractible person. So it's like I need something in the background to focus, but then I also need to take it away so that I can also try to listen. So it's just
Yeah.
a tough balance
Yeah.
sometimes. But I think,
I have a hard time with podcasts. Podcasts are like I have to either be driving a long drive
mm,
or like in the zone focused to listen
mm-hmm,
to a podcast because otherwise it just like it's just words.
yeah. Well, with podcasts for me, um, I only listen to a couple. Um, but it's like if something I listen to, I'll take notes in the podcast. Like I'll be working, I'll be in the middle of sanding a board, and I'm like, "Oh, that's good." I'd stop sanding. I'm like, "Let me type that real quick," and then hit play, or I'll just screenshot it so I can go back to it and then write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Um Back to truth, beauty, and goodness. I wanted to see if we can maybe do like a mini dive into each one.
okay. Um, let's start with what's the hardest one. I feel like truth is going to be the hardest.
Yeah.
So we should probably start. I feel like goodness is probably
Okay. Um okay. Goodness. Gracious.
let's look up what's the
Definition of goodness.
yeah, I want the like basic definition of good. Definition of goodness. Let's look up the normal one and then the Catholic version. Because I'm sure there's okay. The quality of being morally good or virtuous. The beneficial or nourishing element of food.
Hmm.
What? Definition of goodness. Catholic. Okay. The perfect conformity of God's will with his nature.
I just looked that up.
And uprightness of heart and life.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically we have morally good and virtuous, which why would you define goodness with good? Why would you put good in the definition of goodness? But in the Catholic faith, goodness is a moral characteristic that is a reflection of God's character. Well, that kind of just goes into God is shown through goodness because it shows a part of who he is.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you ever thought about like we are called to imitate Christ and God is good.
mhm,
The I don't know, the way that my brain came up with this was like, like good and evil, right?
yeah,
And God is all knowing
mhm,
and God chose to be good.
yeah,
Like that kind of speaks into I don't know, Satan's lack of omniscience.
yeah. But I'd almost
It's like
say if God chose to be good, like yes, he chose to be good, but it's like it's also like saying God chose to be love, but like God is love. Like
Yeah.
So it's like
I don't the where I'm trying to get to is that
at
like
some point he could be a Iron Fist god
yeah,
that's like cold
God is a
shoulder,
God
gives
is a
no one free will, and like
right. But I'm saying if God, being all knowing, chose to I don't know, how do I well I guess we can't really define God, but it's like
I mean, God is love.
I don't think
That is
that's
a definition.
what?
God is love. That's like a definition, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, God
But
being
the
all knowing in
and
some
choosing to
sense.
be good
Yeah.
is essentially there is a very perfect reason why good is the right thing to be
Yes.
and to do because God is all knowing and he is good.
Yeah. It's
I
like
was
with how God is
yeah,
how we get morals and rules and laws and right from wrong.
yeah.
Now,
Um
if we are saying anything that is not true, we are not trained at all in
yeah.
any of this. We're just trying to figure stuff out.
I try a practice of mine is to try in the thought that God is one of God's voices is goodness. I try to make a habit of thanking God for when something good happens
Mm,
because I can easily go through my day and something good will happen and I'll just be like, oh cool, lucky this thing didn't happen or this thing happened.
yeah.
However, but trying to thank God for all the good that has happened is a very I don't know. It's a very intentional thing and it helps me to focus on I am a sinner
Hmm.
and I don't deserve heaven, but I get it anyways.
Yeah.
I need to be very thankful of that.
Hmm. And
Um,
it
yeah,
also shows that God is a present God and not a distant God. Because if he's doing things that are in your day to day life that are good, then it's
yeah,
showing that he's giving you these gifts of um, little things of goodness, and he isn't expecting thanks. Like he deserves the thanks. He deserves the thanks even if you don't get any of that.
yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
That was actually got a
Do you want to try
not pocket tap.
beauty now?
Yeah.
I think we can both speak into beauty a little bit. Um, I love sunsets
Hmm.
and mountains and oceans. I personally think that my girlfriend is the most beautiful woman I've ever met. Um, that's partially why I'm not going to say that's why I love her, but that is something that I love about her.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, beauty.
That didn't define
Yeah.
beauty. Meaning of beauty. A combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic senses, especially the sight. And then the second definition is a beautiful woman. That literally makes no sense. Catholic. Beauty is a transcendental or quality of existence that describes a higher good. I like that one
Yeah.
better. Okay. Anyways, I don't know. Something about
What?
oceans
Oh,
and sunsets and like the waves. that resonates with me. And like songs that have the water in it always resonated with me. And
Mhm.
ironically, a while back I was like seeing, I was like, what does my name mean? Dylan means born of the sea. Yeah, which is
It's the Norse in you.
even more ironic is I now want to move to Michigan,
Yeah.
which is by a lake.
By Lake Michigan.
Hmm. But it's always been like music that I've found more beautiful. Certain things of art, but I don't know. The hand of God always resonated. Not always. It always resonated, but it seemed cliche to me. But then
Yeah.
I had a conversation with our supervisor on the road before, and ever since then it resonated with me. But
Yeah.
and then like the stigmata.
Yeah.
Um, but I think with that though, for it to be like beauty, um, it comes down to like the things I just mentioned. Other than ocean and stuff, like if you do hand of God, the stigmata, even like the crucifixion and the scourging, in my opinion,
Yeah.
that's all like sacrificial love portrayed, and like that's not really something that anyone really wants to see. But in my mind, it's like more moving. And then like the hand of God, it's like God's reaching out as far as He can. It's almost like you're giving all you have in this act, because I'm pretty sure like you'll see pictures of Mother Teresa, and she's old. Like she's probably not really not necessarily pleasant to look at, in pictures.
Uh huh.
But it's like she looks,
There was a beauty in what she did.
yeah, and it's like you can tell you can tell that she's good, which also brings you to goodness. And that almost like then seeing her is like, oh, that is a beautiful woman because of the good she's done, and she's just created by God, and it's like her sacrifice too.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving on, I don't know too much. Like, I can't really speak too much into truth aside from I was a chronic liar growing up. My dad, did you take the cookie? No. Uh,
Are you
that being
lying?
said, I'm a terrible liar now.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. The conclusion that I came to with truth is that like the opposite of truth is a lie.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't know. It's just like hard to lie.
it
Like,
leaves
sure,
an
you can say no, I didn't do the thing, but it's
yeah,
also just like you have to keep up the lie, and you have to
it leaves
lie
an
more.
unpleasant taste.
Yeah, and you just feel bad.
Hmm.
Um,
But I think there's more to truth than just what you say and do.
yeah,
Like,
and the a whole other route that we could go down is that's like um if you think about it, the way that the devil tries to get to you is through the opposite of those three.
hmm
Like he tries to show you hideous things, and he tries to lie to you, and he tries to show you like everything that's terrible.
well, it's also not. It is that, but it's also he takes he twists it. So it's like if it's a good thing, you can have good things, but in the wrong context.
Yeah,
So he's like, look,
like
this is good. Let's turn it.
yeah. A prime example is that like if you take like the marital act,
Hmm.
that is a true good and beautiful thing,
Yeah.
and then the world has twisted it in a way that like
They're like purity culture is toxic.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
and it glorifies
All
all of
that
the
stuff.
things that are like it takes the marital act and it twisted it into a
Hmm.
way that everything about it is now just wrong.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to see the beauty in sex and like how important it is and how
Hmm.
beautiful it is because there's so much that's making it
Yeah.
just like
Well, because it's like what the devil tries doing is like it's like here's this good thing here, it's good. Look, they do this good thing, and it's like yeah, but they're doing it in the right context. You're doing it in the wrong context.
yeah.
Um.
And he tries to like he turns it into a shameful act
Yeah.
and it's like eats away at your
Hmm.
soul.
It's like right. It's you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. It's fine. You're doing good. This is a good thing. Right when you do it, why did you do this? You're a terrible person. It's like
Yeah,
it's instant
yeah,
where God's like, this is good, and then like basically recon reaffirms you for doing that good. Where
yeah,
if you do the bad, like God's like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and it's like, I love you still, but don't do this. And then it's like, if
yeah,
you do it, He's like, look, I still love you, but like, come back now.
yeah. It's a whole thing. I've like the best way I've heard it described is that like you're walking. You know, it's the walk of life, right?
Hmm.
And the devil, what he'll do is he'll walk beside you and he'll like pretend he's your friend and then he'll trip you and then he'll laugh at you.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. Is
Hmm.
he shows you the thing that is that's why temptation is so hard because what he's showing you is a good thing.
Yeah.
But he's perverting it, he's twisting it and making it
Hmm.
bad.
Yeah.
And then he takes it and turns it into a shameful act
Hmm.
and says, "Why would you do this?" Even though he was the one who told you to do it.
Yeah. And a lot of times, if you're not religious of any sort, it's it's you don't. He doesn't want you to know He's there.
Yeah, he makes you think that it was all your fault and you did it all on your own. That's why it's just so hard these days for a number of reasons for a number of people to do a number of different things
Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
But
And then,
truth, beauty, and goodness. I've heard that the best way to combat a sin or something is to do the opposite. So if you are I don't know, if you are prideful, you need to have humility. Or if you are um what was it? The opposites of the seven deadly sins. It was really cool. But essentially you combat the thing that you're doing by realizing and doing the thing that's actually true.
hmm,
Because what the devil does is he takes something true and he turns it into a lie.
yeah.
So in order to fight the lie, you need to learn the truth.
Hmm. There's something
And
I
you
heard. I forget what it. I think we're at a core meeting for my church, and I was talking, and it was like in Dante's great.
Inferno?
I think it was Purgatory. It's like for the one sin, if you're prideful, they have you carry a super heavy rock on your back. So you have to look only down at what you're doing and not looking around and being like, oh, look how good I am.
Yeah.
Then if you're envious, your eyes are sewn shut.
Hmm.
So you're walking up this hill and you can't see anything because
Yeah.
so
That's a super cool concept. Yeah.
I don't think we fully got into truth though. We said the
No,
opposite of it, but we didn't.
talk about truth at all.
I think
I can't speak much into truth. I think that you're gonna have to carry us on this one.
I think I think it's a dialect. Um, so if you hear anything that you agree with or disagree with, you need to carry on. Well, there's truth in speech of like how you talk, and to a degree, it's like okay, well, how do you know what you're saying is true? And this is a Jordan Peterson thing. It's like
Mhm.
Well, you don't know what's true, so just why don't you start at not lying? So it's like that's the first start is you just don't lie. So
Yeah.
then if you're not lying, at least you're not telling the truth. Um, but then it's like there is like you have to act almost true too, because it's like you can say all you want true things, but if you're acting in a different way, you're not being true,
Yeah.
and you can't be someone else, someone who you're not.
Yeah. It comes down to integrity is
Yeah,
essentially being true to your word, true to yourself.
yeah, and that's also, I mean, your water bottle, the C.S. Lewis quote. It's like integrity is when no one's watching. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. It's like you have to be
Yeah.
true to yourself because I don't know, I feel like a huge problem with the culture is like we'll go out in public. I've been better, but it's like you go out in public and um, you be someone who you're not, and it's like, well, that's just not
Yeah.
true because you're being a completely different person, and then you go home and then you're back to being whoever you are, and like everyone is
It's
trying to be
easy
like,
to put on a mask.
yeah, and everyone's like, live your truth, be who you are. It's like, well, that's not who you are because you're living two different lives. So
Yeah.
how can you live two different lives and that be true?
Yeah.
Um, and it's also just like there are certain things. It's like there are lies that people like we tell ourselves
Yeah.
about who we are, and it's like you need to uproot those. And a good way to uproot them is like it's like say I'm a terrible person. That's the thing that I tell myself. I can go to the Bible and find where it says you're a terrible that I'm not a terrible person. It will be like you are made in the goodness and likeness of God. Well, if
Yeah.
God's good and I'm made like God, I can't be a terrible person.
Yeah.
I can do terrible things, but I'm not a terrible person
That goes into the whole like, are people, is the word intrinsic? Intrinsically bad?
inherently.
Inherently bad? So, are people inherently bad or inherently good? And I think that the answer is inherently good because we are made in like just goodness God. Um, truth also plays a huge role in humility because humility isn't like no, I didn't do anything, that
Hmm.
was all you. It's like it's being it's having truth.
Yeah.
To be humble is to be true.
Hmm.
So if you didn't actually do anything and you said that no, that this person actually did all the work, that's being humble.
Hmm.
um,
Now it's not being like, oh, look at all the work I did. No, it's like I did all this work. If someone gives me credit, great. If no one gives me credit, that's fine. But
yeah.
there is also like, I guess for work, if it's like your job and your livelihood,
Yeah.
you can't do the work and then just not get credit for it because then you're not getting justice because you're doing work that you deserve compensation for.
Yeah. That's why like humility is the opposite of pride.
Hmm.
It's like you think like the opposite of pride is, I don't know, shame or something like that.
Hmm.
But like pride is not like when someone says take pride in this thing, you don't. I personally disagree with that because you were born and given the abilities that you have by God, so you shouldn't take pride in the things that you do. I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this. The things that you are able to do, you are able to do them because of what God gave you.
Yeah. Well,
So taking pride in something is not
it's thanking God
not
for the
right.
gifts that He gave you and being
Yeah.
proud, proud, not pride, proud
Yeah.
of what you did because God gave
Yeah.
you the grace to do it.
And the humility comes into play in realizing that you did this because you were given this grace by
Yeah.
God.
And it's knowing what your level is and where you are. So it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to be like, I'm a terrible basketball player. I mean, for sports, probably like on a team, I'm probably a terrible basketball player. But like, just backyard, just shooting, whatever. I can't say I'm a terrible basketball player. I can say I'm a good basketball player, but I can't be like, I'm the best basketball player ever. No. It's like, know where you are.
For a little bit of background, by the way, Dylan played probably 30 what 10th graders
around there. I don't think it was
around
30. It was
30
probably 18 or 20.
18 or 20 10th graders in basketball, and one, and Dylan was wearing cowboy boots, jeans, and playing with a broken hand.
Granted, I'm left-handed and my right hand was broken. But and it was first to 3 points for each one.
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's like I can't say humility is knowing where you are and not overstepping it, but not downplaying it. Because if you're downplaying it, then you're not accepting the gifts that God gave you and not
Yeah.
acknowledging them. But if you overplay it, it's like
It's like I did
that's
everything.
giving yourself too much credit.
Yeah. You put in the effort and you like worked towards it. That is something you can take pride in.
Yeah.
But the things that you managed to do, God gave you the gift and the help to do that.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I think that is all the time we have today. Listeners, if you want us to go into more of these things or any of these things more in depth, let us know. Text us, comment, whatever. Yeah.
And give us ideas for content.
Yes. Alrighty. See you all later, and God bless.
See you next month.
See you next month.